he was potentially would have been the next president. When Ahmadinejad came along, I'm sure some of you guys know Ahmadinejad at the time, and this, it's so obvious now how they're fighting the system that they almost can't control it anymore. And I think that's the problem. They're almost losing control, and they're hating that. So the measures being taken are now extreme. They now, they imprison people for insulting the supreme leader by words of writing it in a newspaper, or drawing a caricature of the guy, and it's barbaric. It's barbaric is not the word. We thought these kind of regimes stopped existing. We thought they finished. Unfortunately not. I mean, Hitler had one. Where did he end up? Gaddafi had one. Where did he end up? Saddam Hussein, I want to say, where did he end up? It's the same road the dictatorship is following. I believe, I mean, there is 1,000,001 hashtag I can tell you, but this no to Islamic Republic, the no to IR hashtag will have branches that will take you to the deep roots of all the atrocities that they have done if you were to just look into them. Please follow us if you can, support us where you can, especially with the potential hashtag that we're planning on coming up. We really do appreciate our voices being heard beyond our own borders. I think that matters. I think that the world hearing that the people are unhappy with the regime is extremely important, because up to this point, they're asking about an opposition. They're asking about who would be in charge. What would you say yes to if you're saying no to this regime? What are we swapping you for? Are you going to go mad, go into complete chaos and disarray, but after a potential revolution and so on, and then the region becomes even less safe? What we want to say to the world is that would not be the case. We already have a very capable opposition. We already have extremely talented people in and out the country that are willing to help with what's going on, and they will be. There has to be a spark. There has to be another protest. Unfortunately, probably more lives lost. We're doing our best for that to not happen, but it to some extent, when you're fighting a regime like this, it becomes unavoidable. So just lessening the casualties, I think, is what we're going for. Just trying to prepare people for an uprising that ends the regime on a high note. We want to be a better country. Our people deserve a much, much brighter future than what they have now. And I think they very much deserve that future. They very much deserve that future right now. So many years lost fighting this regime for so many people that is beyond imagination. So many people have lost some best years of their lives living under a oppressive regime. It's unimaginable. I can't describe it. I wish I was brave enough to be there and go with them, and sometimes you find yourself not to be. And it is difficult to be brave enough to go out there knowing you're putting your lives in your hands that could potentially shoot you down and kill you, and that's it, and that'll be it. Doesn't matter though, you're doing this for your country, you're doing this to fight. And that's what we're trying to be, trying to tell the world that we are capable to have a better Iran. I really do appreciate everybody's support. If you can help us along in this campaign or even any other, and if we can ever repay you, we would. Trust us. We're very loyal people, Iranians are. Do help us along. Karen, you'd appreciate. I'll have to leave. I'll leave myself as a listener, if I may. I'll chat in later. Thank you so much for giving me a speaker to speak here. Thank you.
We'll see you later. Thank you also for sharing. So we have other speakers from Iran, and wait, Milk Tea Alliance Iran, are you ready now?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm
All
sorry
right.
for these connections. My net is not stable. what I
No,
try
it's
to be
okay.
here.
We understand. It's
Yes.
okay.
All right. Let's start. Ask me questions, or where from I must start.
So we were listening to our friend, uh, and he was saying he gave us a general background. He gave us an idea of what is happening in Iran, and it is actually the result of uh, the revolution that happened before. But why are you boycotting the elections on Friday? These will be on Friday, right? This week?
Yes, yes. This week. Uh, First of all, I gotta say thank you for coming here. You almost told everything that needs to be told. Uh, you ask why people want to boycott the 2021 presidential election, right? Uh, let's start this. Uh, Iranian people wants to boycott the election because the they believed and trusted the reforms of this regime in past, but right now they don't trust it. I mean, from our the biggest ones was from November 2019 when the regime responded us with the most suppression. First of all, I have to say that we boycotted the parliamentary election on 21st February 2020, right? But since it was a it wasn't a presidential election, we didn't see any reaction from the world, right? So the upcoming election is important, and we expect the international community to recognize people's democratic movement, like what Venezuelans and Belarusians did. Now, I will explain why people's vote are nothing and useless in this regime. We have the Guardian Council in Iran, which controls the law and elections in Iran. A 90 years old Islamic cleric, or simply we say Mullah, Ahmad Jannati, is the secretary of this council. This council has 12 members. 12 members. 6 members are mullahs appointed by the leader Ali Khamenei. The other 6 members are jurists appointed by the head of judicial system. The head of judicial system is also appointed by the leader, and he changes the leader of this judicial system every 5 years, right? So that means the entire council is controlled by the leader, and he decides who will be the president, not people. So what this council do? They have the right to dissolve the parliament by Article 93 of the Constitution of the Islamic Republic. According to Article 94, they have the right to approve or reject any bill of the parliament. You can read about this council later. That's exactly like Hong Kong, which the CCP interferes in their elections and disqualifies those who don't pay attention to the interests of CCP in Hong Kong and also in Taiwan. In past, 40 activists in Iran launched the campaign called the 40 statements. In Iran, we say Bayaniye 14. Their demands were resignation and resigning of regime's leader Ali Khamenei and dissolve the current constitution and recreate a new one which must include democracy, human rights, and secularism. But the regime arrested almost all of them. But now people launched the campaign called No to the Islamic Republic. And I gotta add, people are, uh, you know, telling in social media and also in real society about that we have to boycott this election because this regime won't be reformed. And the only way to reform it is to overthrow it. Okay, that's my answer to your question about why we boycott the election.
Are there no alternatives to boycotting this election? I mean, this has not been covered much in the media. So, although some of the news articles from international news organizations have discussed this already, that even the human rights activists in Iran who used to say that they wanted to participate are now saying that they will be boycotting the elections. So, do you think the majority of the voters will be boycotting this time?
Yes, sure. Majority of Iranians will boycott the election. Even those who voted the regime for the reformists, now they don't vote, and their only request is to overthrow the regime. They want to bypass the regime for a secular democratic regime. That's what they want. I mean, people don't trust the reforms in this regime.
Sorry, may I respond to that?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I'm Iranian. First of all, thank you for giving me the floor to be with you in this event and raise awareness about the Iranian situation right now. Regarding your question about that, how many of Iranians want to boycott the election or they don't want the regime and they want regime change, I would like to refer you to a survey which launched just 2 weeks ago. And the survey results came out, and it happened to be 45% of the people they don't want to vote. And according to another survey, more than 80% of Iranians want the regime entirely be taken down and replace it with another system. So that's basically according to the statistics and the figures. I would say it's better to consider that survey. And if I may, I would like to give you a general image from the situation that we are going through right now in Iran. Basically, the apologists of the regime in Iran misled the West or even the East, the entire world, by creating the delusion of reformists and hardliners in Iran. For over 20 years, the regime in Iran failed to carry out any kind of reform. It's a mere fake project that serves as a distraction. Because this constitution, like the other Iranians just explained, the constitution of Islamic Republic cannot be reformed. It's not capable of being reformed. So basically, the reformation concept cannot be applied for their constitution. And for the let's say from this angle, I am a woman. I was born and raised in Iran under the brutality of this regime. So from the day one that I was born, I was considered as the second class citizen. Why? Because first of all, I'm a woman. according to their constitution, to their ideology, I have basically no rights, and I have to follow men, or I have to follow the Islamic laws, the Sharia laws, uh, to be able to somehow live without live with other people. That's one aspect. So they basically, if I want to survive in that country, I have to shape myself. I have to shape my behavior. I have to shape my life according what they define for me. That's really hard. I have to always have a like going through a double life, like thinking in a different way and acting in another way in order to just survive in that country, let alone the LGBTQ community, let alone the minority religion, which we have a lot of different beliefs in Iran. Many of us are atheists and non-believers. There are Zoroastrians, there are Christians, there are Jews, and a lot of other beliefs. So none of these minorities have no basically rights in Iran. If you want to survive in that country under the brutality of the regime, you have to be whatever they want you to be. For this reason, the reformation is meaningless and it cannot be done. So we are going to boycott it. And even the boycotting the election is not enough, because they are going to sell the numbers and figures by propaganda to the world. They easily can manipulate the data and sell it to the world that, hey, look, these people are this amount of people support us, which is a big lie. So in order for that, we need an international community to hear us, to support us, at least in the social media, where we can resonate our voice and show to the world that we want this regime go away. And then we will talk about it, that what kind of government or what form of government we want. The alternative of this government for us is a government which provide democracy, freedom, and secularism for the citizens, regardless of the form of the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for what you shared. Actually, for those of us who are a bit older, I'm not young anymore. I'm Gen X, actually. We remember Iranian women to be very progressive. They had PhDs in the sciences. They were doctors and lawyers, and Iran used to be a secular society. I mean, as you've mentioned, there are Christians, Muslims, Zoroastrians. Everyone was there and they tolerated each other. That's what we remember of Iran. So you're saying that it's no longer that way now. So can someone would someone like
Hi.
to
Hi, can you hear me?
Pistachio?
Yes, hi.
Okay.
I came in a bit late, but I heard friends are talking about Iran. And of course, I was born into this revolution that my crime was being born into Islamic Republic of Mullahs. This is not what I've chosen, or my parents who lived in very remote area. And this regime was brought to us, and word knows it was brought to us by France, US, UK, and this law system that's implemented in Iran, Iranians are against it. they do not want to be oppressed and suppressed. 42 years we've been lied to in every election, and we have foreign minister. Sorry, Gino, can you mute? We have elections that are sham, already pre-selected by Khamenei. Khamenei has been in power after death of Khomeini, which was another criminal that killed many Iranians. And outside, our voices are not heard because we have major heavy lobbyists that are filled their bank account of media and Republican and Democrats with money to stay silent. So our voices are not heard. Just like our friend Kamangir mentioned, George Floyd, we have had many journalists killed, executed in Iran, and no mention of them. And even if I mentioned in my previous Twitter accounts, our Iranian journalists who are supported by mullahs, they block us, they silence us, they don't let the world hear us. And we are wondering why the world is staying silent, why all these NGOs, human rights organizations, they don't speak up about us, what is going on. We know we are born in a land that's wealth of money, and the other external governments only care for money that's coming out of Iran, all the corruption that's going on, all the sanctions, and they want this to continue forever, to just drain Iran, Iraq, and all those areas from the wealth that they have and leave them in corruption and uneducation. This is not what we want. Iranians are smart people. Most of the brains, we hear about brain drain. Most of the Iranians are in all over countries. Sadly, when Obama came on board, he brought 2,500 clergymen, children that are supporting Mullah's regime, and they're trying hard in many organizations such as NIAC, Crisis Group, Brookings, MENA, the Pink Code, and I can go on. I have many names of these organizations they work for. They are trying to decrease the crimes of mullahs and show the world that this is a legitimate regime. It's not illegitimate. It was brought to us by force by Western media, and they're silent about it.
Thank you, Pistachio, for that sharing. And I can feel the passion in your voice. I can also feel the frustration. So rest assured that we are with you. Rest assured that we will stand by your struggle for democracy. So
I really appreciate it. For a person who left Iran as a child, when I turned 9 and my parents helped me leave the country alone to be away from this Islamic regime that forces hijab, forces all kind of regulation, no respect for women, whatsoever. I feel sorry for my people who live there. They're oppressed, suppressed. They are waiting for us to be their voices, to make them be heard. For me, I'm living in a country, I'm relaxed. I had education. I literally can say I can be retired right now and not work any day in my life, and I've made enough money. But I am feeling a responsibility toward human rights, and I need to be their voices. So this is why I am frustrated.
I am sure the Burmese and the Hong Kong diaspora can relate to that also. Would anyone care to speak? I think someone from the Alliance Burma or would like to speak
Sorry,
now?
I just have one more question. So
ahead.
this space, thank you for this space, and I'm wondering if any media or any source of outside press release will be released about this, so we can follow and we can retweet about it in the upcoming days, because this next 2 days is very critical, and we have to show European unions that is extremely supporting mullahs to wake up and as advocate of human rights act for it and do not fake it.
We tagged them, but I think it's a bit late. Short notice. Actually, this space was organized at short notice, but Gino is live tweeting it. Gino, would you like to say something? Gino is one of the administrators of this account. So
Hello,
go ahead.
hello. Good evening. Good evening. Good afternoon to our Iranian friends. I am currently live tweeting so that all of this verbatim is memorialized. You can follow the thread I'm adding there. If there are any connections, feel free to add the corrections to any statement, or if you want to add to any of that, feel free to add under the certain thread number that you'd like to sort of expound on. We will do our best to reach out to whatever media connections we have to cover this people's movement that's happening in Iran, and know that Milk Tea Alliance and the Filipinos are right behind your cause. That's all.
Thank
Thank you.
you, and thank you. And I know a sentence in Filipino, mahal kita. And I would like to say that Iranians who live
Mahal
outside,
kita.
I have relatives who are Filipinos. Iranians who live outside and in Iran, most I can say if it was by their will and by their wish, without fear and threat, they all 96% would vote for Prince Reza Pahlavi to return to Iran and start a new system that would make this country a better place, better resource. And I have to say it clearly, he's been in exile 42 years. And when we speak up as Iranians, the politicians inside Iran tell us, oh, you're outside, don't say anything. But my statement is, Khomeini lived outside Iran 15 years. Why he was something? Because Western media wanted him. Western leaders decided he was something to bring, and that was the best way to drain Iran's wealth. On that note, if you would like, please follow Reza Pahlavi's Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube accounts, and I really appreciate it.
Sorry, can I just add something to what Pistachio was saying?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I think it might be a question for some as to why are you still going through this? Why haven't you done something already? Now, there is an answer to this. We have been. You see, as the years have gone on, in the 42 years, more and more people every election have stopped voting because they realized it's going nowhere. As the years went on, more and more people were added to the circle of other people that were lost because they were executed, because they were, unlawfully, may I add, executed, and they were added into that circle of people against the regime. As the years grinded on, more and more people in the country have realized actually what they used to have was a head and a shoulder better, if not a lot more, than what they have now. And not to take a political side, because that can be a bit of a touching issue for some Iranians, I'm sure, as to if you prefer to have a kingdom, if you will, a system more like the UK, where you have a king or a queen and your parliament will make decisions for you, or an absolute kingdom, if you like, where the only king makes the decisions post a potential overthrowing. And I know some are supporting a Republican view of the world, both of which are amazing. What we want, though, I don't think at any point of these 43 years have we been more assertive on our goal of wanting this regime gone. The number of people against this regime are being added to on a daily basis. And at no time have we been more with it, if you know what I'm saying. At no time have we had more of an ambition to try and get rid of this regime. And by not voting, and not voting in numbers, we're trying to start off this engine of telling the world why we're not voting, why are we boycotting an election, in which case it makes no difference to us anyway. Because even the candidates, I mean, you would not believe, one of the candidates literally promised that they would give people the actual number of the dead during the November protests if they were elected as president. I mean, anywhere in the world you mention this, not only you'll be a laughing stock, but you'll be counted into a circle of criminals. You've committed genocide, essentially. they're admitting to it as an election campaign promise that I'll tell you how many people we killed if you vote me in office. This is unreal. This is beyond belief. You tell that anybody in the world, I bet you guys haven't heard, but this is real. This is real. The promises get more and more stupid as you go through and you hear them. I apologize for using the word, but they do get more ridiculous. They get worse. They're a joke in themselves. There is no need for us to add anything to this. We just need to let the world know this is who we're dealing with. This is, our next potential so-called president is known for his crimes back in the 1974, if I'm not mistaken on the date. It might be later. I want to say 1984. I may be wrong. He's known for his actual crimes. He was already in the system at the time that they executed a load of journalists. And he was personally in charge. He's got recorded voice in a meeting telling one of the Ayatollahs at a time that we want to kill about 200 people because, we decided to move them from their cell to another cell. We may as well just get rid of them. And the Ayatollah in that recording says not even one of them. Now, that is a rarity in Ayatollahs. They are no longer like that. They're hugging power to the best of their abilities, and they're not wanting to let go and not having anybody stand in their way. They literally will kill people on the street as long as they get to keep power. And I think, power gone crazy is not the word, but it is. The guy has gone mad with power, and he's killing to keep it. He's killing to keep it. There is, no matter to him, there is records of him saying that no matter how many people you're going to kill, just quieten them up, just silence them. This is in November 2000, November 2 years ago. It's not even gone. You can still see the poor lad's blood on the street. You can, and he was 18, he was 13. Young kids being shot in the head. Snipers were assigned on top of buildings to shoot at protesters who were not even throwing stones. Stood in a queue. They stood in a protest line shouting to say, we don't want you anymore. Snipers on top of buildings. This is military style against your own people, this. This is another world. Iran, may I add, is a beautiful, beautiful country. And it is a shame. It is a shame that it's being run by such an oppressive regime that has taken every bit that they could at any possible chance. They've given our North Sea away. They've given our South Sea away. They're literally, I am telling you, literally are selling our soil. Because it's good. It's good soil, right? It has a price. They've been selling away our oil. We were so happy when President Trump came along because he decided, the mullahs, I'm taking the JCPOA deal back to start with. They don't deserve to have nuclear energy running around where the mad mullah had his hand on the button. You insane? Of course not. I'm Iranian. I would love from the people of my country to have nuclear energy. Why not? What's better than that? But oh my God, don't hand it away to a mullah who's mad for power. Because that's Kim Jong-un II, right? You're talking, you're going to now need another Trump to calm him down. So my button is bigger than your button, right? This was a running joke for quite some time. So the reason the world is resisting against a deal like that, because they don't want everyone. They're saying they're going to get rid of, and this is, I'm surprised and astounded as to why Khamenei still has a Twitter account, but Trump was suspended. Astounded. The number of times us Iranians have raised this with Twitter support is beyond belief. The guy is a terrorist. Ask him, why doesn't he go anywhere in the world? Why doesn't he travel to another country just outside of Iran? Because he'll be arrested. He's a criminal. The reason they don't go anywhere is because they can't, not because they don't want to. It's beyond belief, the situation we're living in. is past the point of saving. There is no reforming them, and there is no other option beside just wanting them gone. This is what we're fighting for. We want the regime gone. And you know what? We have enough clever people around to build us a better Iran in the future. Much better, much brighter future for our Iran. So the fact that we're playing alongside this regime, again, I'm astounded that the European Union is supporting them in the level that they are. They know exactly what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. They know exactly how women suffer in Iran. They know exactly how children under the age will end up having to sleep on the streets every night with nothing, with no support whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people sleeping on the streets in Philippines or London. There are, but there is an ultimate line of support here. There is a port of call here. In Iran, this is what the regime has learned, divide and conquer, and you'll get to keep that power. So they've made a load of people rich, and the rest of them are just dead poor, bless them. Running water, some suffering from, in some lower provinces in Iran. If you travel to the hotter bits, the south of Iran, fully deprived of even drinking water, just living space, just a school, education, some of the lowest things, some of the most basic rights that a regime that claims they want to go for energy and nuclear power. You still haven't got schools, man. People are suffering. People don't have drinking water. And at the worst of all, nobody can complain. The minute you raise your voice, anywhere on the street, somebody will take the camera out, will take your picture. This is why we're not there yet. This is why we're not finished. Because people are now scared for their lives. I don't blame them. They're scared to go out on the street because they know anything can happen and nobody can do nothing. Not even President Trump could stop an execution of a wrestler, Navid Afkari. I'm sure it was a hashtag going around for Navid Afkari. President Trump retweeted it. Not even could he stop his execution. And when we see scenes like that, believe it or not, we'll get scared, man. We'll think that no, we appreciate so much of your support. But unfortunately, it comes a point where you're thinking even the big guy is not winning. What chance have I got? It's difficult to keep the spirits up for people like this that are fighting. Some people expect the revolution to happen overnight. It's not an overnight process. We all know that. Some people expect a revolution to happen with nobody dying. We all know that. And we have had people dying. We have been fighting. The reason we're here today is because a tweet was seen by yourself, then it was retweeted, and then you went, oh my God, that's a subject to talk about. People are suffering. And that's great. This is exactly what we want. I'm so glad I can speak here today, just because I really do believe that I haven't got a poll to tell you. There is no official figure to tell you how many people in Iran actually don't want the regime. If anybody tells you otherwise, they are either don't know or they're lying to you. There is no actual poll or figure that tells you that. And the regime has many supporters, and they're well advanced in their propaganda war and whatnot that I can name you, right? We should not underestimate them. And I think if one of the things we've learned in the past few years has been to stop underestimating them. They have Twitter bots that go through blocking our accounts or reporting us because they hear a voice that is fair for everyone. They hear a voice they want to stop. They're saying this should not spread. They pulled through from France a known journalist into another country. I believe it was Iraq, if I'm not wrong. They pulled him to Iraq and then they arrested him in Iraq, I believe, and then pulled through the border into Iran, and then they executed the guy. I mean, there should be movies made about this. If there was a Hollywood director here, would be asking me for the plot. There is no need for me to sell it to him. Just go and read the tweets. Ruhollah Zam was one of the guys that we've lost here. Huge one of the reason people, I think, he would argue anyway, the reason people ended up on the street was because of his push. Now, good for him. Well done. This is what a fighter does. Now, I'm nobody. I am nobody. I can tell you that today. I am nobody except a fighter who's just fighting for a better Iran. doing whatever I can, no matter where I am. And I think that matters. And I think that matters. If I cannot be on the street, it doesn't matter. Maybe I can talk to somebody. Maybe I can help somebody get out of a bad situation. Maybe I can teach somebody something. So much of us outside of Iran have so many different areas of expertise that we can use to further our goal here. And that's what's gone on now. We're in a war, essentially. We've learned our ways. We know we can't just hashtag something and have a revolution. If a hashtag was coming with a revolution, would have happened many moons ago, I can tell you. But you guys hearing our voices, I think, is what matters. You guys hearing we're living in an oppressed regime, an oppressed country, with our voices silent at any opportunity. This is precious. Please do go and look about what's happening in Iran at any opportunity you can. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I spoke for too long.
Can I speak?
Hi.
Who was that? Sorry, I cannot see
Persian.
everyone.
He's our Persian god. He has to edit his voice because of security in Iran.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry about my voice because, you know, I live in Iran and my this is the situation we live in. I mean, I have to change my voice so that they can't arrest me, because if they arrest me, they will execute me. That's the level, I mean. But I wanted to add some comments on what my friends of Iran told you. You might wonder, why haven't you heard about this situation? Why haven't you heard any of this before? Because this regime have built an entire propaganda system all over the world, and there's some journalists, they've sent them as political refugees and sent them all over the world, and they went there and exactly porting everything as IR regime wants. That's why I haven't heard about all this, and this is the voice of real Iranians. That's, I mean, it's unbelievable, the terror, the oppression that we are experiencing. This is, I mean, my friends told you everything. I just wanted to add a comment that this is the real voice. You shouldn't believe anything that the media reports about Iran. This is the real Iranian voice. They don't want this regime, and we want to boycott this election because we believe that, according to the Constitution, only Ali Khamenei is capable of reforming, and according to the Constitution, he has the power to do so, but he won't do it because he's the dictator. I mean, you can't ask from someone to reform his own, to give away his own powers. I mean, you have to make him do it, and the only way that we can do it is by a revolution, and that's why we want to boycott this election, because it's just a show, a ridiculous show that wants to tell the world that we have election. That's just ridiculous. I don't want to talk much because my English is not that good. I'm just here to listen to my friends and add just some comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
sharing. And we got direct messages. This is from someone who says, I fully support what the present speaker says. Actually, Kamangir and I think the real Persian God Uh,
Mm.
the DM says, religious government frustrated us, but unfortunately, we believe the human rights organizations don't look to us as human beings. As I am living in Iran, I cannot be as a speaker as explained by Persian God. So, uh,
Mm.
people have been corroborating each other's messages, and I
Karen,
don't think you know each other. Yes, yes.
mm,
Go ahead,
uh,
Mufti Iran.
can I, yeah, can I talk some
Sure,
to
go
giving
ahead.
details? Yes. Uh, Thank you for my friends for talking. Kamangir said about our biggest protest in November 2019. I want to tell something about it. Then I want to tell about why Iran is a joint military alliance. Uh, our protest in November 2019. November 2019 which is called the Bloody November. The regime encountered a lack of budget. So they increased the fuel price by 300% at one night, which led people to the streets to protest. As always, the regime changed our peaceful protest into violence because if you search for their clips, you see people were in the streets with flowers in front of regime security forces. But then the regime changed our peaceful protest into violence. But this time it was different. According to Reuters, which our friends told about it, they killed 1,500 protesters, 1,500 protesters, and detained over 700. And no one knows what's happening to them in prison. So, and later, after they also, I have to tell that, they also cut our internet when we started to protest. They cut the internet for 3 days, then started to kill us. The regime never announced the true and clear statistics about casualties and detentions. And you may hear that, and our friend Kamangir, I don't know who was talking about, he said, I think he was Kamangir told about. One of the candidates called Hemati told that if I become president, I will tell you how many people are died in November 2019. It's really awful. Okay, I want to tell you about why Iran joined military alliance. I want to tell that, but at the first minutes of our space, I got disconnection many times because of my connection. Sorry about that. So let's talk about why Iran joined military alliance. When we see a dictator like CCP, the Islamic Republic in Iran, and Russia are making the life hard for nations, the first thing comes to our mind is why those nations don't unite against that dictator. Currently, Iranians has three regimes that interferes in Iran. First, the Islamic Republic in Iran. Second, the Chinese Communist Party, which we say CCP, and also Russian regime. So we can unite with those who suffer from oppressive rules of these three dictators. On 27th March 2021, the regime in Iran signed a treaty with the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, everyone knows, which Iranians named it the Second Treaty of Turkmenchai, a treaty to sell Iran at the Persian Gulf to CCP. Oil price website revealed the content of this treaty. I want to mention two of them. CCP wants to install 10 million CCTV in Iran's 7 most populous cities. They also want to create a huge electronic espionage or spy equipment and warfare capabilities in Chabahar port of Iran. You can read more by searching articles of Simon Watkins about 25 years deal between Iran and China. So we see CCP tries to dominate its neighbors and the world. We can unite with those who want to be free from CCP. We hear that Myanmar had a coup on 1st February, I think. We followed their news, and at a point we heard that CCP refused to stop UN from voting the coup for Myanmar. UN wants to give a resolution about Myanmar's coup, but CCP stopped it. We heard this, we started to support the people of Myanmar, because we know if militaries, which people of Myanmar call them terrorists, if they came to power, they could suffer. You know why? You know why? Because we have the same kind in Iran right now. The IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, they are some kind of militias. They are not part of army or something. They are terrorist militias. They are controlling the country, economic, and everything. So imagine if Myanmar governed by those army. It's going to be a militarism. What will happen? The Myanmar will be the second Iran. So we have to support the people of Myanmar. That's what we say. And now also others. We see Hong Kong and Taiwan. They are some kind of a one nation and two system, right? I hear about this. But we see CCP tries to completely overtake those systems by putting their, sorry for using this word, puppets in Hong Kong and Taiwan, maybe. So we have to support the people of Hong Kong and Taiwan, and that's our bridge. That's our bridge between us, the CCP. So once we have a one common problem, we have to unite against that problem. That's our key to victory. Thank you for giving me. I think Milk Tea Alliance Myanmar wants to talk. I'm happy to hear it.
Can I ask you something, Miss Karen, if I'm not mistaken your name? One of my friends have sent me a message that if you see him, add him to the speakers so he can speak. It's called Ayatollah Huawei. I don't know if he raised his hand. I don't know if you see him. I think he's a good English speaker. I think he can add some valuable comments. I'm gonna switch to the listeners so you can add them.
Yes, I am actually trying to look for him, but he's not in the list. There are a few requests that we are trying to look for, but because I think Twitter Spaces can only accommodate 30, and then others are shown as numbers. So let me find him. But go on, if would someone like to speak while I look for the other
I would
speakers?
just
Go
like
ahead.
to add to milk tea, because that's the name I see. Yes, Myanmar people and all our these countries with dictatorship, we all have the same problem. Milk tea, if you can mute, I think it echoes. Also in Iran has intruded in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine. So anywhere they extended their authority, they have been reason for destroying these nations. And I'm sorry that I see Khamenei's account is in many languages active, and he's promoting nations against each other and building separations and building groups. And it's interesting that Twitter allows this to go on. If you go and scroll down and up through his tweets in many languages and click translate, he is literally promoting partisan and hate and Western hate and Israel hate and all sort of animosity and war against who is non-Shiite sect Muslim. And by the way, we Iranians feel they are not Islamic and they are not Republic. Nothing that they do is Islamic. Nothing that they do is Republic. So nothing is for the people, and their laws are just laws for us as a nation. We are forced to follow. We are forced to act as we are Muslims. But behind the screens, they drink, they travel, their kids are abroad, bare naked, literally, and they do everything they want. It's free for them, it's legal for them, illegal for us, because we are just people, just numbers for them. And thank you. And yes, I have actually
Hi.
tweeted about Myanmar and also another country that they had some protests. I usually monitor news in 3 languages.
I will just speak very quickly and just give this mic to whoever, a long queue of list waiting to speak. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for sharing these struggles and stories. And it's really eye-opening and great for us to actually hear, like you say, the true voices. The real voices of Iran. I will keep this short. We also have been under the rule of armed oppression and also these constructed fake elections. We can relate to you, and also I can hear the pain and frustrations in your voices, passion, and we can relate and understand your pain. I'm not saying or saying everything the struggle we are facing, political struggles, are the same or of the same character. I mean, they're very diverse and pretty at a different level, scale, or in different manners. But I mean, we have seen protesters and children being used snipers, sniped down, or people arrested for speaking up for their rights, for freedom, and just for liberty, which is the fundamental universal human right. Or, these internet total internet shutdown, so that these atrocities and violence could happen and take place. So when you're not alone, these ruthless, these monsters, they enable each other. They make themselves stronger, and like for example, providing surveillance equipment or sharing technologies, all these dictator playbook and techniques, which makes our struggles more deep and interconnected in a way as well, because they're using the same techniques everywhere, which is very why, like most of you have said, that it is very important to unite our voices. This Twitter space is great because it's allowing all these diasporas to join together. And also, of course, it's not just CCP, it's beyond that. It's what we are being describing throughout is the regime, the oppressive regime, the authoritarian power, which is we are all against, all these nations at different levels. So you're not alone, and we will continue to speak up amid our problems, and I think that is what makes our voices louder. So we will do our best, and we will read more, we will research more. I apologize for my ignorance or little knowledge about what is happening in Iran. It's a shame the world is not ideal, and we all have these struggles. If not, we will not be even here speaking if it was perfect. And we have been fighting as well. Yes, we are willing to speak up, but I have a few questions just to clear things what I don't perhaps grab, maybe because of the connection or I joined a bit later into the discussion. First, talking about the boycott of the election, I understand the reason for doing it, and know the amount of people not supporting it. We hear your voices, but there isn't. This is just me speaking out because maybe I might be ignorant. Isn't that could backfire in some way if perhaps, for example, we have also had fake elections for years because we were under dictatorship, military rules or dictatorship for more than half a century, so 50 years. Now the coup is back. So we have had these elections where they just fabricate these numbers and just move on whether we support or not, and we were just silenced because we were scared to be tortured or killed. So if, let's say, the majority public boycott, and it still proceed, and then the figures get distorted, and then as usual, whatever happened in the past, the person get re-elected or gets into power by force, then let's say the revolution happens, and of course people will have to go out on the street, and maybe that can be in for virtually on ground, but many lives will be lost. But sorry, perhaps my question is, what are so two more questions, which is, do you have a potential candidate that you want to vote for, and what do you want? Who should we talk to in European Union who has the most, perhaps a candidate we should be able to approach and speak to? And what are these action calls that you want? What steps? Of course, speaking out and showing that disobeying and resisting is great, but for example, we understand you were against the CCP and also these oil. While I'm pretty sure we also have conglomerates like businesses like oil doing these business with the government. I don't know. So what are your call actions? Sorry, it was really long, and yes, I will mute my mic.
To answer you on that, you can speak to NATO and ATO and G7, and you can go through my reply tweets and you can see which leaders I have responded and requested. But me being one person, I'm ignored. Many others should raise their voices so they can hear us.
May I respond to that? Well, you asked if we boycott the election, who would be the alternative? Who would we want to get into the power? Well, basically, what we want is that the entire regime, without any precondition, just go away, and then we basically start to like a referendum first, and then we will again vote for what kind of system we want, and then we will just rewrite a totally new constitution for Iran. And basically we will start a new form of government without like interfering the religion into the constitution or any sign of the previous government. So it's not so simple that we say we are going to boycott this election, and there are already parties in Iran that we want those parties to be replaced. No, this is not the reality, because basically what is happening right now in Iran is that only one, let's say, party ruling the country, which is Ayatollahs. The definition of party is meaningless in Iran, and before taking this regime down, we cannot do anything. This is for sure. So first, we have to boycott to break the propaganda of the regime, because like I said before, they have a very powerful propaganda machine outside, and every time that they have election, they're gonna sell those statics and the numbers to the world that, hey, we are democrats, the democratic country, we launch election, and people choose what they want, which is not correct. So by this campaign, No to Islamic Regime, we want to say to the world that their election is fake, is sham, and is basically a selection. And then after that, by pushing more,
Hi.
can
Sorry,
I
I just wanted to add, in response to who you should speak to for in the UN. This just shows how deeply the propaganda runs.
She is disconnected. Until she comes back, I will tell you, in UN, you can speak to Antonio Guterres. In Human Rights Watch, you can talk to Ken Roth, and he's aware of the situation in Iran, but never ever tweets about it. And there are many other, you can also US representative for UN Norway, UN Sweden, UN well, I can pull up the names because I have them saved in my WhatsApp list. But it's first the leaders. It's POTUS, which is President of United States, Clarence, which is UK, Boris Wilson, which is again UK, and Sweden MP, and so on. I think she's back.
Can I add something to the question of Military Alliance Myanmar?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for my to our friend. They almost answered to your question here. I mean, you asked what's the alternative? Our alternative is the people of Iran, the referendum, which they also said that the current regime. I'm telling you to imagine what is like that. Look for China, CCP. There's only one party ruling the country, which is the communist. In Iran, you may hear that we have principalists or reformists, but both of them are taking orders and obedient to the leadership, the Ali Khamenei. So it doesn't matter who comes to be president or who goes to the parliament. All of them will take order from Khamenei. Khamenei cannot reform this country or thinking about people. He just think about this ideology, the Islamic ideology, which they want to export their revolution to the Middle East, then the whole world. Just look at the neighbors of Iran, like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Lebanon, or Palestine. Even in Palestine, where I see some members of Military Alliance talk about Palestine. You may know that the enemy of Palestine is not Israel. It's those terrorists in Gaza and West Bank. Those are called the Islamic Jihad and also Hamas. These terrorists are funded by Islamic Republic. Islamic Republic fund them. They give them weapons, foods, everything you think. Even the Hassan Nasrallah, which is the leader of Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a terrorist group in Lebanon. He said in TVs, you can find these clips. He said, all of our weapons, foods, salaries, anything comes from Islamic Republic in Iran. So, what I'm saying this is where we want those terrorist groups. We were at the part of Khamenei's ideology. So someone like him, which is like that, we must not vote. That's the best democratic way to fight against this kind of brutal and cruel regime. And after the Vala regime, we hold a referendum, which through representative of Iranians, through representative of Iran and Iranians, will participate in this election. Not the current not the current parties, which all are one, just Islamism, and maybe Islamism and a little communism is mixed in this regime because they are anti-US and anti-Israel and anti-imperialist. This shows this regime is Islamist and also communism. Thank you. Everyone, others can talk. I mute my mic.
Can I read some message that I received in direct?
Go ahead.
Thank you. One of my friends sent me a message to read. I'm just quoting the whole message. War to remove Satan from the world. This is the motto of the mullahs. According to the mullahs, sedition means anyone and anything other than their belief. The Islamic Republic of Mullahs is the spiritual father of all terrorist groups in the area and all around the world. Whether it is the Taliban, ISIS, the Popular Uprising, Hezbollah, we Iranians are not just fighting for our rights, we are actually fighting for all the people of the world. We are caught in this regime. We are of this regime. But the whole world is in danger, as if today, wherever there is a trace of a terrorist, there is the name of the Islamic Republic. Please convey this message of the Iranian people to the international community and provide the early global consensus to help the Iranian people and, in particular, the people of the world. Thank you. End of the quote. I'm going to mute my mic.
Thank you very much for reading that message. And someone would like to speak. I think it was Milky Myanmar, Milky Alliance Myanmar. Was it you who was requesting to speak?
Hello. Hello.
Hello?
I actually have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. They were saying that in the last protest in November, about 1,500 protesters were violently killed, right? And in this election, there is actually a electoral candidate who is actually promoting his campaign by saying that he will actually reveal the the casualties if he got voted. So does it mean that the Iranian people, the people inside Iran, they don't know the exact number of casualties, but only the outside people know, or I don't know how. Are they covered
Sorry, I
from the
can answer
truth or
that.
something
I
like
think
that?
I can answer that for you.
Okay.
I believe it's a few folds. If you tell people in the first instance as to why did you disconnect them to the rest of the world through their internet connection, why would you do that? I mean, unless you're about to do something that you know is wrong, why would you do that? They had full control over this as well. It wasn't an accident. They didn't fall over on it. It wasn't something that just happened. This was meticulously planned, right? So this would be essentially point one. So it was, we're talking about denial here, a complete denial as if anything ever happened. So,
Hello?
essentially, it's like turning off your CCTV. Hello?
Your voice was cutting.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I said doing that, turning off the internet connection, it's like turning off the CCTV. You want to wipe it off the records. And that in itself is very telling. Why? This would be point one as to now they want to give out numbers of people you've killed. This is astounding already. You were denying anything ever happening. You were cutting off voice of the rest of the world because you were killing us on the street, and now you want to give out numbers. So this in itself is an astounding statement just for that alone. And then the fact that we know it was our friends, our families, our compatriots here, I know on Twitter, that no longer are with us, that would have been on the street, that died that day. We know their names. We've been shouting out their names every day on our Twitter timelines. You look through them, myself included, you'll see a pin on my first tweet. It was one of the worst scenes I've seen from the outside of the country, is from somebody else's camera. And this was just the beginning of it. This wasn't even in that November. It was pre-election. It was the last election, if you like. I can take you back in time. Sorry, it was the one before, if I'm not wrong. See, the atrocities been going on for so long that we even lose count as to how many people were lost on which election. This is insane to start with. You're killing your own people because they're protesting against your decision is beyond belief. So the fact that you're now coming out and saying we're happy to give you numbers, and we know how many people died. The rest of the world seem to be in doubt, though. I think is our claim here. The United States alone, when Trump was president, they came out with 1,500 plus people that they said that they had almost received lots of files and videos that would claim that this seems to be the case. We've gathered evidence, and I heard not that long ago that the Biden administration denied that, and they said 300 to 400 protesters. The lobbyists are doing their best all over the world to help this regime because they're getting paid by them. Some people are for money. I am not for one, but some people are for money. Some people sell themselves very easily. Some people because they're in trouble. Let's not call them all bad people. Some people maybe because they've got their family under gunpoint to say, you do as we tell you. Otherwise, that's it, your family will be dead. Now, if it was me at that point, I'm afraid to tell you, I'll have to pick my family. Truth be told. If anyone tells you otherwise, they got, I won't call them a dangerous person, but they're very committed, at least. So the fact that this candidate is coming out to announce numbers in itself is ridiculous. It is basically claiming your crimes. Oh, you know how many people we killed? Like, we know, mate. It's the rest of the world that you've been trying to censor and...
Can I add
sorry,
something?
God, continue.
If you hear my voice, give me a clue. So, okay.
We can hear you. You might try to
Thank
speak
you.
louder.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, right. There was a statistical research done by a independent group in, I don't know, I believe it was US, by Iranians living in US, comparing the deaths of natural deaths of people in Iran 10 years prior to the November, I believe it was 2019, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not, because I don't know the Gregorian calculators, calendar. So, and there was a statistical research comparing this November with prior 10 years November, and there was a 4,000 to 5,000 differences between that year and 10 prior years. So this loophole, I think it's a really big number, a really big difference, and there is something, we don't know the exact number, but there is so much more than 1,500 deaths in that month, and that's the only thing that we can say about that bloody November, because there is no official records, there's nothing, and we might have heard about some people because they got famous, they got them on cameras or something, but we don't know as far as we can get, because even this person that's a candidate get elected, he would simply lie. He would come.
Persian God, can you hear us?
I guess he's from Iran and the connection is
Yes.
constantly cut off. And adding to that, I will say that the reports are 4,200 dead plus. We don't know how many exactly, but maybe near 500, 5,000. The reason is in one tiny city near where I was born, about 500, 400 some numbers that from mouth to mouth, I heard they've seen seas of blood, and they're saying all the cities, 70 cities, only 1,500. That is, I don't think that's truth. Plus, they arrested 7,000, which we don't hear from them, and gradually, one by one, they are executing or killing them, and their excuses are they got corona, COVID, or they were addicts, and so on. So they get rid of them this way. So the numbers are pretty high.
Okay, we have another message. It says the criminal regime does not give up any crime to stay in power. Power and staying in power is the only goal that justifies any decision for the regime. The internet was cut off to kill people during the protests many times without any human rights organization reacting to this blatant crime. Executions, tortures, successive assassinations, etc., are very common. And I think that when this regime is removed from power, the real dimensions of the crimes will become more apparent. Thank you very much for that. The one who sent it is still in this room. So I think this has some similarities with what is happening in Myanmar and in West Papua. So take note of that. These are not isolated incidents. They are, as Kamangir said, they are premeditated. These were planned ahead of time. So anyone would like to speak? Sorry for people who are requesting for the speaker button. Either we can't find you or the requests cannot be accommodated for some reason by Twitter.
I think there needs to be only 8 listeners. I can go to be listener so others can come up. I think Samad has raised his hand. That's what I see. Tiara.
I can give away my mic as well.
No.
Anyone
We
from
still,
Iran can.
we're okay. We're not beyond, we have open spots, but for some reason, the requests cannot be accommodated. We're okay. We're not beyond 10. So anyway, for people who
I
wish
can
to
also go to the listener section, so maybe more people wants to talk. More HKers or Taiwan. I didn't see them ask question. They can, everyone can ask question. I can go to listener if you want, people.
we're not beyond quota, but it's okay. You can. Anyone who wishes to speak, I think we have many messages on DM.
Sorry, just one point while you probably look at the message to raise is that sorry, helicopter at the wrong time. One point to one thing to point out is that yes, it is about fighting and boycotting the election, but really the bigger picture here, what we're really going for, is that we're going to show or want to show the people that the rest of the world that there is an opposition here for us um, to replace essentially. As I said earlier, I think there are very many clever people in Iran that can, sort of captain the ship, if you like, and take commands of everything. And a vote, a referendum, a promise to everybody is, I think, is what everybody wants. Somebody asked earlier, who is your representatives? I'd like to say there are very many people that actually support the son of old Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, and in a way, I personally love his attitude towards things. He's very lax. He's been fighting for a free Iran for many years, for a secular democracy in Iran for many years, and many others do believe in him. So, as a port of call for somebody to get in touch with, I would say I'd recommend him. I'm sure there are much like-minded people with me here, or there may be others. I know there is a Swedish MP that has been supporting us. I don't know him by name, unfortunately. In all of our campaigns, he would be great at getting in touch with. If you want to put your voices across to talk to somebody, one person somewhere, I would say he would be more than happy to help. Not that I've contacted him, but I'm sure he would, because he's been supporting us in a lot of what we've been saying recently. If one of our friends can help me with the name of this Swedish MP, I'd appreciate.
Sorry, I just have one more question. If we are saying of boycotting, and let's say somehow things proceed and we don't like how things are proceeding, can we expect like people marching out on the street protesting? I mean, speaking out loud on virtual cyberspaces effective, but somehow this crowd, there's just, I don't know, power images coming.
I'm both happy and sad to tell you that regardless of our efforts, the story will continue. The elections will happen. They will pick their candidate that they've already decided. And unfortunately, if I could promise you or anybody in this room a revolution at a particular time and day, and tell you that people will be on the street because of A, B, or C, then Nostradamus will be in a different universe to me. Then, if I could do that, that would be great. Unfortunately, I can't. I don't think anybody can tell you that tomorrow after the vote we'll be on the street. What we can tell you is that it's been added to our numbers. There is many more of us now fighting this regime than ever before, and I think if there is a spark or a particular situation, a deal that people are unhappy with, we don't need a reason. I don't think we need a reason, but if there was one, the force will be strong, I'm sure. I'm only one person. I'd like to say I speak on everybody's behalf, but I'm sure I'm speaking on some people's minds' behalf to tell you that we will keep on fighting post this election, and we'll say no to IR, which is our hashtag that we've decided to pick, which in itself means Na be Jumhuriye Islami, and that's what we're going to be keeping on going with, because that's the ultimate message, to say we don't want what we have. And I can tell you, very recently we had a group of oppositions to the regime from all sorts of places, from a normal speaker like myself to our current Prince Reza Pahlavi and a very famous activist and journalist, Masih Alinejad. I will keep on naming, but very many people, I think it was over 10 or 13 different parties come together to talk about this matter. So it's not just us here shouting on the world of cyberspace, if you like. This message has been received by a group of the opposition that are very much capable of coming together and doing something for Iran that would make it be much better off if the Islamic Republic left. So, and they won't go by their own accord, unfortunately. They still would want to kill many. They still have many lined up to kill. Every day they're executing another person. another young person, another family go without a father or brother or sister because these guys have just had a bad morning. You know, it's a different world out there. Iran in itself is a beautiful country. I'd really again like to add that honestly, if you go to Iran, have a plan to go to Iran. It's a fabulous country. But wouldn't it be nice though that everybody could just live in this fabulous country at peace? Wouldn't it be great if you just go to Iran on your holiday, not having to have to wear a hijab on your head? It should not be forced on you. Why? Why is it? It's been forced on us every day, and people have had to take it. And that reform came in itself very slowly. I can tell you, they've been working at this system for 43 years. This regime is extremely capable. They know what they are doing, and they do this meticulously and by plan. We know now, I suppose I can say, what we're up against. It's a tough deal, I can tell you. We're going to need everybody's help in this fight against this regime, whether it's on your Twitter, social media, on your journal, in your book. Make one other person aware that they should just look in this direction all by themselves and not just solely rely on a media that's been lobbied by the regime, which is most of them. I can tell you, BBC Persian is one for sure. How many times would you tell a reporter that the guy that you're naming is not the leader of Iran, is the leader of the Islamic Republic? Don't bad name us in the world. We are good people in Iran. I want to be able to tell my child to happily be a proud Iranian little girl or a little boy, whatever you name it. Why shouldn't we be proud of our heritage? We already are. We already are. We feel like it's gone downhill quite a bit, to be honest with you. We had a lot more than this. We had a lot more than what we have now 40 years ago. It's taken 40 years to only go backwards. It's taken 40 years to only go backwards. It's almost amazing that they've managed to do this. It's almost amazing how they've managed to do this. We're astounded ourselves. People have decided to be silent because it's okay now. They can live their lives if they're silent. But even those people are now being taken over by this ridiculous rule of the Ayatollahs that, go to everything. I mean, our supreme leader came around and said, no vaccines are you allowed from American and English countries. Britain, I assume he was meaning. I swear to God to you, this is a statement he's made that you're not allowed to have that vaccine. Why? In a time like this, you must be an unbelievable man. This is ridiculous. Why are you banning a vaccine into our country when you know we need it? And people are suffering now. They have to go and get a vaccine from somewhere else when there was some available. And you know what? He's probably, I can tell you, been the first person who's had a Pfizer vaccine himself. Why not? Well, at least he's protected. We all know that. We all know that's happened. If that's not happened, that's how we now think about them. They've changed our mind about them so much that we hardly even trust each other, let alone them. We hardly even trust in this space to each other, let alone the regime. That's how they've been winning. By dividing us, by separating us, by threatening us, by scaring us, by killing us. That's how they've been going so far. That's why they've lasted this long. They know exactly what they are doing, and they will continue doing that for as long as they can, until at least the ones that we can, us lot that we can, wake up and say, hey, listen, the world, are you hearing us? This is ridiculous. I mean, we shout for Myanmar, we shout for any country in trouble. I mean, we see the tragedies that happen in Afghanistan by Taliban through those little girls in the schools. My God, it brings tear to my eyes to think that little girl there can't have an education. That's where we are, because I'm sorry to say, some idiot is in charge. And some passions run high in our campaigns. I've heard people insulting Islam in many ways now. Personally, I want to say I agree. But even if Islam is not the trouble, the Islamic Republic have made it look so. That, you know, it's the regime, it's the religion. Maybe gonna have to cut your right arm or left leg because you decided to. The draconian rules, they still live by the books. You know what? It says do not eat pork meat. Yeah, I get it. Completely understand why. Do you know why? Because the animal eats its own feces if it could. And you know what? That's not going to be good food for it. So you eating its meat could cause you diseases. And I get that. And there are methods to go through this and over it. But the fact that you just not allow people to eat it in their own countries, you can't find pork anywhere in Iran, at least not legally. Alcohol is the same. Why? Many people end up going to drugs, even though they have a policy against drugs. It's the most common. I want to say disease. It's not a disease. Some people get in trouble. You know, it's ridiculous. The situation is already dire anyway. I apologize for continuing to talk so long.
It's okay. Some of us have questions. I think those from Myanmar have questions about repressive regimes and how is the sorry, I'm reading the DMs and putting all together, everything together. What is the relationship of ISIS and the Islamic Republic? Are they supporting the other armed Islamic movements in other countries? So can someone respond to that?
Sorry, I didn't hear your question. I apologize.
So there are a few questions asking what is the relationship of ISIS to the Islamic Republic, and if they are supporting the other Islamic armed movements in the world.
I can answer to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
As we know, in 2002, 2003, when Obama was on board with Hillary Clinton and Soleimani, they've started to build these militias against other groups in Iraq, and its complete connection with Islamic regime in Iran. So they built this group and they built Hashd al-Shabi, and they were fighting each other, and in between many Yazidis, many Iraqis, many just hardliners, Sunni Muslims were killed through this, and Iraq was overtaken by literally Islamic Republic of Iran. Right now, in every organization in Iraq, there's someone representing Islamic Republic, and this is what Iraqis are very upset about it, and they are having protests to get them out of their system. The militias, the ISIS is still a very small group, but then there is Hamas that Soleimani worked on, and they are large numbers still all over Iraq, and they are controlling civilian. Just like in Iran, they come and kidnap our relatives who speak up about government. They kidnap Iraqis who speak up, the journalists, whoever goes out in protest. And when they are in protest, they enter the groups as normal citizens, but then they change their slogans and they misguide the people, and they want to keep the current interference of Iran in Iraq ongoing. And this is one reason Iraqis hate Iranian nations, not knowing that we have nothing to do with this.
Okay. Did that answer the question? Hold on. I'm getting DMs left and right. So would someone like to add to that? Some of the speakers?
Pisteso, I think the name. Pisteso told almost everything. There's You asked what's the relationship between Islamic Republic, Islamic regime, or Ayatollahs and ISIS. ISIS define themselves as Sunni, but Islamic Republic knows themselves as Shia. They want Shiaism, right? The relation is both of them wants an Islamic world. They call the entire religion as a Salifa. Al-Qaeda use the same word. The Islamic Republic says, I want a Shia world. Even the Qasim Soleimani in there, some of their Qasim Soleimani, I gotta say, Qasim Soleimani was the commander of IRGC Quds force, which Trump's administration killed him. He said, we must have a Shia petroleum. That's so. The relation is both of them wants to promote Islam, but Muslims. I gotta say something to Muslims of the world. These kind of people, which are Islamic extremists, are not truly using Islam. The Islam as a tool to give themselves legitimacy to kill and plunder the resources of your country in the name of Islam. The same for the Islamic Republic. That's it. Okay, I'm muting the mic. Anyone wants to talk?
I will add to that when Iraq protests happened, Soleimani was alive and he told them, you don't know how to shut the protests down, just disconnect the internet and kill them. And this did happen in Iraq, and 800 plus were killed, which is a very sad situation that world did not even hear. And also Associated Press photographer was in Iraq then, and he reported only few deaths who were troublemaker, like they lied about the news.
Okay. Bahar is trying to get in but is having trouble with her phone, I think. So she's sending everyone her regards. Your Miss Iran is one fierce girl. She's here in the Philippines, of course. So let's try to summarize, or Brogley, yes, please.
Yeah, hello. I've sorry to kind of like butt in right now, but I've been having some troubles with the app, and I'm worried that if I wait for later, I might lose my connection again. But
Right,
yeah,
go
I was
ahead.
just going. Yeah, but it's just a quick Ted, about the Kylie Moore Gilbert case, who's a Australian academic who was in Iran and was arrested and sentenced to prison for 10 years, ended up only being held for 800 days and was released. She was accused of being a spy when she was in prison, but the reason she was imprisoned, as she revealed afterwards, was that she was ordered